and I want to thank you all for being here today. We're going to talk about one specific building that Henry Klutho designed, and it's quite a jewel, quite a treasure, right in the heart of the Springfield neighborhood, and that, of course, would be the Klutho Apartments. And for those who don't know where the Klutho Apartments are, they're right on Main Street between 8th and 9th, am I correct?
Correct.
Between 8th and 9th. And in fact, Rita, you live right around the corner from the Klutho Apartments. So you have watched them tenderly and with great affection for these many years. Tell us the early story of the Klutho Apartments, if you will, when you first noticed them and kind of what happened with the Klutho Apartments until the great save that we're going to talk about today.
Well, when we were thinking about moving to Springfield, the first thing, of course, I was told about was the Klutho Apartments because of their significance both architecturally and because of its place in the film history in Springfield. And then one of the worst things that ever happened was when I got up on the morning of the 28th of September in 1993, this was about 3 months before we actually moved into our house, and saw the picture on the front page of the fire that had pretty much destroyed the Klutho Apartments. SPAR, Springfield Preservation, had acquired this building as part of a housing project, and so we had just signed the contracts to purchase this building, and the arson took place. And so if you get a chance, you might look at the pictures that show the devastation of this building. It was one of the great tragedies. Anyway, we went ahead, we took the building, and then another disaster happened, and that was RO, a city agency that was going to fund the rehab of this building as affordable housing, was summarily dismissed by Mayor Austin. At any rate,
excuse me 1 second, Rita. We're showing right now, and you may want to talk about this.
Oh, yeah.
An early...
Oh, this is absolutely beautiful. This is why this building is so gorgeous. I mean, so important, because it is a premier example of the prairie style that Bob was talking about earlier. And
this photo dates to probably when? About 1917 or 18? And we'll...
I know Bob would probably be able to date it better, but it's certainly before the era when I came in, because by the time I came along, they had screened in the porches, and it had the facade had a very different look, and I suspect this is early. But you can see why it's so important. The art glass windows have gold in the material, in the glass, and it just sparkles in the sunshine. And Bob and Fresh Ministries, who are now working on it, have replaced all those and restored all those windows. Are we going to get a picture of this devastation?
We will. We will get to that. In fact, you're talking a little bit about that. We're going to go back to that. So now there's been the Great Fire in 1993. Right at the time the community group is signed to take this on, and you know what to do. And let's see if we can see some of the photos of the devastation at this point. And
well, those pictures that we are going to show, if we get to them, were taken as part of a grant application to the State Bureau of Preservation, because we were looking for a grant to be able to start this restoration, because we were on our own now. We no longer had any city support. We did, I guess, at least two different grant proposals. But you can see from the stairwell all the way back, the fire was started in the elevator shaft, and it spread, and fortunately though it spread mostly to the back of the building, and so the front part was saved, and that's why a lot of the front facade was not so badly damaged. But it took out the roof, and so for 6 years...
I can see the sky in that
yes,
very
you
photo.
Can certainly see it. And for 6 years I ran back and forth to Tallahassee and talked to every person I knew. They stopped wanting to talk to me. They were afraid I was going to ask them for money. And finally I did write letters to some of the rich people I knew, and Loris Weaver responded. And then the great people who had started an agency in the neighborhood a couple of years before that, Fresh Ministries, decided to take it on as a project. And we literally gave them the building because we knew we didn't have the ability to save it, and they did.
And that is a wonderful part of the story. All those years you fought for that, and finally a group stepped in And let's pick up the story there, Michael. Michael Bryant of Fresh Ministries, welcome to you again. And Fresh Ministries took over the project roughly when, Michael?
Well, I think it was pretty close to 1999, after about at the end of Rita's 6 years, when she was kind of on her last legs of trying to save the building. And I must say that we undertook the project initially somewhat reluctantly because we weren't primarily involved in restoration projects, although we had restored the house where our offices are on Laura Street. But what really finally engaged us about the building, we certainly knew it was a treasure for the neighborhood. I, like Rita, am a resident of the neighborhood. But what we really thought was the greatest potential of the building was to kind of jumpstart the commercial revitalization of Main Street, which had long been neglected and was one of the challenges in trying to sell and restore the neighborhood. And so, given the opportunity to create a signature project on Main Street that would really communicate that times were changing and that the past glory was being reborn, was what enticed us to take on the project.
And take on the project you have. When do you, this is such a jewel in Springfield's crown, this building, and it's such a jewel of Henry Klutho's. In fact, Bob, were you not a consultant on this project? I believe you were at one point, and I know you've provided photos, I believe, to help them along.
Well, actually, I'm the restoration architect.
You are? Excuse me. So
Yeah.
you've been the restoration architect on this project?
Yeah, I've had to run the job, and at the beginning, it was like Nagasaki or Hiroshima. I mean, almost total destruction inside. And I certainly give the Jacksonville police, not police, but firefighters, credit for saving the front end of the building, which is the most important part of it. So we took it from there, and little by little, lifting out the rubbish,
And we have on the screen right now, actually, what it is to look, what it should look like upon completion. Bob, you have any comments about that rendering and what we can expect?
Well, the rendering shows the building like it has not been seen before, since probably before or right after World War I, 15 or 16.
And actually, last time I drove down Main Street, it was almost to that point. And is it?
Yeah. Well, if you look at that again, if we can, there are balconies. There are balconies to the left that you could never see before because that was all enclosed as rental property.
Oh my goodness!
That's not the way it was designed. So the porches are back, and that enclosed portion's been taken away. And as far and as closely as we can, we've tried to restore the building the way it did look. A lot of things are not known fully, but I think it's going to come very close to being a full restoration.
The exterior restoration is largely complete. The only thing we have not done at this point is to replace all of the stained glass windows. We have one set in there so people can get an idea, and the rest of them are in storage until we get to the final stage of the restoration and add those back in as well.
Let's talk about how Fresh Ministries will use this magnificent completed building and when you expect it to open.
Well, that certainly became the next perplexing question once we decided to take on the restoration and saw it could be a help for Main Street. And what ultimately we decided was that it made sense to continue to let it have the kind of impact on the community that it had once upon a time. And while not as apartments nowadays, but as a center for urban initiatives, which is really the thrust of our work at Fresh Ministries. So literally part of our operation will move into the Klutho. There'll be another floor that will house other nonprofits who are engaged in urban work. And the first floor will have a significant historical exhibit on Klutho and on Springfield, as well as a community meeting room where groups in the community can continue to come to the building and make use of it. So it'll be a real center for the benefit of Springfield and the neighborhoods that surround Springfield.
The first time Michael took me in there, after they'd done so much work, I cried. It was just so wonderful to see it happen.
And what I have to say, and Rita, your enthusiasm for it is, I mean, this has just been a labor of love. Rita actually won an award for dogging the save of this building, preserving this building.
The wrecking ball from, because the city was going to take it down.
And you were actually awarded the one of the preservation awards by the city of Jacksonville for your years of service, to save that among other work you've done.
It really should have been Jim Overton, though, because
Okay.
if Jim hadn't given me the, he's the one that said, I thought we did something about that. He was thinking of the housing project. And so it was a very significant day. It was the day Patricia Alston was her funeral, and he went by that. And so at the cemetery, he was saying, we need to do something about that. So I explained what, all the things that had happened in her room. And he got us a grant, and that made it possible for to get another grant from the state, and we turned those things over to Fresh Ministries. That was our little bit of legacy we could give them.
And Jim Overton has been a huge friend of preservation, as has now you, Rita. Bob Broward won the city of the Jacksonville Historical Society's Preservation Celebration Award for all your work preserving the city of Jacksonville. And of course now Fresh Ministries has stepped in, and nothing makes the Jacksonville Historical Society more pleased than to see other groups get involved in saving our city's treasures. Tell me again, did you mention the date that we can expect this?
In the fall of this year, we expect to be completed.
And I take it you'll have a grand opening, and people will be
well
aware of this.
Everybody.
I want to just mention for a minute that Henry Klutho, for a long period of time, lived next door to the Klutho Apartments in a home he designed.
That's right.
And Bob, tell us a little bit about that and where the home is today.
Well, the Klutho house residence first went up on Main Street way before the apartments. The house was built in 1908, which makes it the oldest modern building in Florida, and certainly the first modern house. And then when Klutho, after he put his whole fortune in the film industry and lost it all. Then after that, in order to make some, and he meanwhile built the apartments, he moved the house around to 9th Street so he could gain a little bit of real estate money for the lot that the church wanted that was on the corner of 8th and Main.
And so now the house, you can still see it, but it's around the corner. I want to thank all of you for being guests today. We are out of time. And if anybody wants to find out how to get this magnificent, newly re-released book, they can contact the Jacksonville Historical Society, 665-0064, or go on our website, www.jackshistory.com. Thank you for joining us today. Bye for now.